What is the most ridiculous thing you have seen at a party? A totally uninterested guy sitting on a chair reading a paper and drinking a can of drink while a very wasted couple were having sex in a bed a few feet away from him. He kept trying to talk to them about funny stuff he was reading, and they kept shouting at him to frick off. As you can imagine, I only saw a few seconds of this and heard more about it later. I once walked into a house party and a girl came up to me and my friends and said, "If you're injecting, then throw your needles out of the back window." We decided that wasn't really a party we wanted to be at and left pretty soon. Friend had a party in high school and walked in on a guy pulling his pants up quickly after clearly attempting to crap in his cat's litter box. Standing in bathroom line with a friend, she asks to borrow my chapstick. As she's uncapping it, she still has a drink in her hand. Cap comes off a little hard. She accidentally throws her drink back over her shoulder, all over the chick behind her, who freaks out, demanding to know who did that. Friend turns around, says, "Oh my god, someone spilled a drink on you," and uses the situation to bring other girl into the bathroom and clean her up, this defusing the situation and jumping the line. I remember someone heard some cops at the front door and decided to jump out the window leading to the backyard to get away. Probably should have made sure the window was open first. From what was to be just a noise complaint turned into an bill and paying for a new window. College party and the cops end up at the front door. Obviously there are kids underage, so we crammed like 40 of us into a small bedroom where you could barely breathe and kept quiet. You know that face people make when they are about to vomit? Well, this girl right beside me started showing that face, and before I know it, she pukes all over another kid's back. It started a chain reaction, and about 10 others puked after. I noped the frick out of there, and as I was leaving, I passed the two cops, said howdy to both as I nodded my head and left. They didn't say a word. Work trip. Weird lady from accounting joins us on a rooftop hotel bar area we had taken over. The talk turns to weird things you can find online and I mention furniture 30th. The woman is incredulous. Wants to know if it's really a thing. How many websites? How widespread? Etc. Discussion moves on and more shots and drinks are consumed. About an hour later, accounting lady beckons us to a further part of the roof area where she has taken the deck chairs and created a 30th scene. She is well-dyed and very detailed in her description of the white plastic lounge chair doing reverse cowgirl with the metal dining chair and the three-way between the bar stool and two end tables. It was so detailed and graphic we just stood there speechless. House party for someone's 21st. Some guy finds the host's bag of raw potatoes. Another guy dared him to take a bite out of one, but he protested. More people heard of the situation and gathered around him. Eventually started the chant, "Eat the potato." Succumbing to peer pressure, he took a bite and in a brilliant move passed it to the guy who dared him, who then took a bite and passed it someone else. It turned into communal raw potato eating with everyone chanting, "Eat the whole potato," and passing it eventually to everyone at the party. Surprisingly, nobody got mono. An army vet doing cocaine for the first time. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "I killed 11 people. The only thing that feels better than killing 11 people is this freaking blow." Then he kicked a door off its hinges. It was disturbing. My buddy was throwing a New Year's party and it was pretty wild. Some people he didn't really know were their friends of friends, that sort of thing. A dude and a girl he didn't know went into his bedroom and locked the door. He was not having it. He bangs on the door and the guy yells, "Frick off." My bud is a pretty mild-mannered guy, but without a second's hesitation he takes a step back and kicks the door right open. We pulled them out and walked them out the front door. He replaced the door frame the next day. This was ridiculous, but honestly ridiculously cool. This dude showed up to a big house party of like 125 of us with his service dog. Not just any service dog though. A giant ass Great Dane with a makeshift army pack thrown over him that carried drinks around for people at the party. He brought me a drink or two. What a good dog. Definitely watched my friend feed the dog at least 5 hamburger patties at the end of the night in our wasted haze. Kid smoking a catnip joint. The house owner was also selling rolls of toilet paper to the guests if they had to use the bathroom. Some dude thought it is okay to throw up on my best friend Kat during the party. Kat was actually kind of cool with it. My friend wasn't. Saw a guy snorting coke on a dorm room floor. Someone said something funny and he laughed, spraying a cloud of coke. He started licking the carpet. I witnessed a girl pass out on my friend's porch and then get humped by his dog. The dog was always humping whatever he could find, and she was no exception. I went to a work party and the girl that hosted it had sex with 5 different dudes. She fricked a guy in the garage. She fricked 2 guys in her bed. She fricked a guy in his truck and she fricked a guy on the couch that I was supposed to be sleeping on. Young me wanted sex too, but she told me to take a hike. For some reason, that bothered me for a long time. In high school, friends made 3 batches of brownies, regular, weed, and laxative. They didn't mark them and it quickly became a disaster. Probably the girl with the 4-year-old son who still breastfed him. She said she could squirt milk across the room, then proceeded to show us. I will forever know her as lactating Tressie. I thought butt chugging was just a joke from some frat bro movie I'd never seen. Nope. People do it voluntarily, who aren't pledges or rookies, or in any way being hazed. A girl fell through a ceiling at a house party when I was in college. That was pretty wild. I've told this story before, but when I was in college I was in a fraternity. At some point we started partying with some international students, because we met some of them at a campus event. 90% of them were Brazilian. So, I was one of the sober brothers watching the door talking with one of these Brazilian guys and a chick came up the stairs. And without even saying anything, she grabbed his hand and dragged him into our little code/supply closet next to the door. About 10 minutes and some uncomfortable sounds later, they both come out and he gives me a wink. She continues downstairs and the guy and I resume talking. Not even 5 minutes later a completely different chick comes up and does the exact same thing to this guy. I thought this was hilarious, but I was also slightly jealous of this guy's apparent affinity with women. I have a friend who, on 2 separate occasions, tried to put out gingers with fire extinguishers. A guy who had life on his forehead giving out lemons. The lemons had horrible diseases written on them. Girl wanking with a drink bottle on the host's little sister's bed. Invited to a party by a furry. We didn't know that she was a furry. We didn't know that it was a party for furries. We get there, and there's a guy getting a tail butt plug put into his ass in the middle of the floor, inches from people who aren't paying attention to it at all. Those people were playing Magic the Gathering. The people in the backyard were playing with a high power laser identifying stars. We didn't stay long. I went with my girlfriend and her friends to what was later revealed to me as a gay frat house. My girlfriend went to the bathroom for a while and a bunch of dudes hit on me. I felt special. Nice guys. One of my friends pulled down his pants, slipped a condom on and just started taking a wank in the living room. Girl got super wasted at party, so we put her at the toilet. Come back 10 minutes later and there's crap, piss and puke flooding in the bathroom floors. I guess after that she got it all over the carpet outside the bathroom and the owners of the house had to get new carpet. We called her the party pooper after that. Someone pouring wash soap on the floor in front of the back door. Sick dude sat on a lazy boy sipping margaritas and watching people slip and fall. Went to a tailgate party at a large house my freshman year of college. Not many people were there as it was still early in the day before the game. Out of nowhere comes about 6 frat brothers dressed as Oompa Loompas. Orange skin, green hair and the whole outfit. Just walked into the backyard, singing their songs and doing as bad a cartwheel as they could. I spit out my drink when I first saw them doing those cartwheels, haha. I think they were just going to random parties on the way to the game. I was once at a big indoor techno concert in Spain. Imagine this place was packed. Good vibes. People dancing and having a good time. We are having a good time too. Suddenly, we all felt small drops of liquid on our legs. We stopped to look around, and we see this drugged up dude pissing all over the dance floor. And behold, an hour later we see the same dude from distance, being dragged out, while lying on the floor for doing the same thing again. I swear people do the most fricked up things under influence. Two guys that I believed were straight were very much naked together in a bathroom. Shortly after arriving at a party, the sensitive guy with the acoustic guitar shows up. 15 minutes later someone took the guitar and smashed him over the head with it, creating a large gash that bled profusely. The attacker then proceeded to run off into the night with the guitar and was never apprehended. It wasn't a good night for the musician. A Halloween party with two Jesuses. I kept trying to convince them to fight to the death for timeline consistency. They refused. I was sitting on the roof and a guy said he wanted to dive through the window to get back into the house so he would look like James Bond. He ran to the window and dove right into a closed window, cut his arm pretty bad, and he just said, "Oh crap. I thought it was open. I should stop doing cocaine." You've heard of strip poker? We were playing strip Red Rover. We were all in our 30s. Sent one poor girl to the hospital with a busted knee. Arrived late to a HS party. Walk up the driveway to a chair being thrown out an upper floor window. Walk into a split entry. Dudes are upstairs holding potted plants, dropping them onto the heads of anyone going downstairs. Girl whose parents owned the house is passed out. I go up. Friend hands me a drink. Don't even get a sip before cops are everywhere. Ran out back. Buddy hid the drink in a pile of firewood. Walk around front. Cop checks me out, but I'm sober and had no booze on me. I drove my buddy's car. We went for pancakes. After we ate, we went back to get the drink. Someone had taken an axe and cut the deck off of the house. We found our drink and hauled ass. Monday morning, there was a huge investigation into who was at the party, trying to figure out who did the damage. 1990 was a simpler time. Dude puked in the middle of a crowded room and just stumbled out the door and passed out for 3 hours on the stoop. That dude was me. Guy starts hooking up with a girl. He asks his roommate for condoms. This guy's about to lose his virginity to this girl. Everyone's happy for him. He goes into a room and starts going at it. One of his friends busts open the door and asks the girl if she wants a third. First guy screaming no. Girl says yes. So this guy's first time. He's having to share with another guy. At some point, a third guy enters. The entire party stops and everyone's just watching these guys rail this girl. Eventually the first guy drops out and just sits down and watches while the other two guys bang the first girl he's ever had sex with. Felt bad for him. So land sharks are pretty common. You carry a naked person through a party with a frisbee clenched between their cheeks. Normal, except one time. One of my friends was on the fence. A sort of do I or do I not dangle my dong throughout the whole throng kind of thing. So his condition was that the 4 people carrying him, 1 per limb, also had to be naked. And so 4 naked people carrying another naked person with a frisbee in there, but through a party, was probably the craziest. Or close enough. Was at a party when I worked at a ski resort in New Zealand where there were 4 naked girls on top of a table and just ski boots dancing and kicking drinks in every which direction. Oh, and some guy literally strapped into a snowboard to crowd surf through the entirety of a packed house party. Ski life. Best life. I've seen someone uninstall the sink of a bathroom at a house party back in high school. They brought their own tools and took the time doing so. When I lived in North Carolina, I went to a very shady party with a guy from the construction crew I worked on. These folks were off the grid hillbillies. There were several absurd events at this party. 1. Right off the bat, 3 older black fellows smoking crack in the front room, while some much younger kids were playing video games on the floor. 2. There was a man in his 40s with a wasted girl about 17 sitting on his lap. 3. The entire house was filthy. 4. A guy who had been in jail said that I was clearly a bitch and would have definitely been referred to as a bitch if I were in prison. Please keep in mind I did absolutely nothing to instigate this. I barely spoke all night. Then the crescendo, this big fat hillbilly named Bird, who also wanted to beat me up, ended up having sex with the best looking girl at the party, still only about a 5 on the 10-point scale, in exchange for Kenny Chesney tickets. All true. Wilmington, NC, summer of 2007. I was once at a party where in this one group of people, about 4 guys and 2 girls, were drinking rum and spitting it into each other's mouths. The most eye-opening thing, something I shared here in AskReddit quite some time ago, was a college party at a large off-campus apartment. My date at the time and I noticed that the crowd kept getting smaller and smaller, but no one was saying goodbye. We finally observed people going into a bedroom at the end of a hall, so went to check it out. The room was dark, crowded, and just enough light to see all sorts of things going on, and not just couples, but singles from the party doing whatever with whomever. We left as discreetly as possible, but the imagery from that event is hard to forget. Someone I know spent 2 hours trying to put a pumpkin in someone's mailbox. He wasn't just pushing it in, he started punching it. Couldn't believe the stamina on that person. It sounds boring compared to the stories here, but it was one of the funniest things I've ever watched. Of course everyone spent the first 25 minutes trying to get him to stop, but after we gave up and just watched, it became hilarious. Someone snorting lines of speed off another dude's abs. Walked in on 2 girls giving out BJS to 5 guys. Sadly, or not, I became guy number 6. Back in high school, we went to a junior house party as seniors. There was a junior football player who was hitting on one of the senior football player's girlfriends while he was out back in the pool. When the senior kid came back, his girlfriend told him what happened. Everyone overheard and started yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." The junior kid heard all the commotion and came running over to see what happened, and all the people at the party pushed him into the center of the group and made a classic fight circle around him. He started crying instantly when he saw the senior boy and his girlfriend walk up and got on his knees and started kissing the senior kid's feet. Everyone stopped yelling fight and the entire house went silent as everyone was confused what the hell just took place. I couldn't tell you what went through the senior kid's head, but he started laughing and walked away, and everyone had a WTF look on their face and then went back to the party like nothing ever happened. First day of uni. My flatmates thought it would be a good idea to throw a house party and invite the entire accommodation. We invited all 200 people, and about 40 turned up. One my flatmates, who was already pretty wasted, poured 17 shots of alcohol for people, laid it out in front of him, and wasted one of them. People began to chant for him to drink them all. He said no. Then people began to chant peer pressure, peer pressure. So he wasted them all in less than a minute. An hour later, I found him lying in the corridor with vomit over his shirt, and people trying to wake him up. He began to have what I thought was a fit. I called an ambulance, and uni security ended up taking him down to the hospital. Since the ambulance would have taken too long to arrive, they ended up taking him back halfway there because they thought he wasn't wasted enough. Somehow, he nearly died, but everyone who was trying to help him became great friends. It was a strange thing to bond over, but we are all glad it happened. A similar thing happened about 3 weeks later at a different party. We are sitting on the back deck. It's a warm summer evening. Close friends and friends of friends all sitting in our chairs in a big circle, chatting, drinking, smoking, enjoying ourselves. There are multiple conversations happening and everyone is having a nice time. No one is hammered. Everyone is at that beautiful place we all aim for when we are drinking, and no one has really gone past it yet. My friend and owner of the house stands up and announces, apropos of nothing, that he is going to crap into this ashtray. Picture a normal sized ashtray. He places the ashtray on the ground in the middle of the group, and he drops his pants and squats over it. Everyone has gone completely silent. Every eye is transfixed on what is about to happen. The party is collectively holding its breath. In my head I'm asking myself, what happens after this? What kind of party does this become? What happens when someone breaks the freaking code of public decency so adamantly and without any purpose or reason? Where do we go from here? He grunts and groans, like he's really trying, and then as abruptly as it started he pulls up his pants and says, "I can't do it." And everyone starts laughing and jeering, and what the frick? Eyeing him. But for a moment, for that one spectacular moment, we were about to go to a place I've never been before, where a guy crap in an ashtray at party surrounded by friends, for absolutely no other reason than to do it, and I wonder where we'd all be now if he had. I didn't do the party scene much, so I've only been to 2-3 actual wild parties. One of them, I was dragged to by two of my best friends, both female, because they were really into that scene and they wanted me to get out there more. After an hour or two at the party I was a little buzzed and roaming around. I stumbled down into the basement and saw a small collection of people making out, getting touchy, etc. Right there on one of the couches is one of my friends blowing a guy. He came in her mouth without warning. She fake swallowed, kissed him and returned the favor by spitting it into his mouth. Guy flipped out, almost vomited, threatened to frick her up. I got between them. We almost went to blows. He was friends with the person hosting, and suddenly it went from 1v1 to 6v1. We were advised to leave, and there wouldn't be any issues or I could take my chances and see what happened. I found my other friend and we left. Reminded me why I didn't do parties. 3 guys tag teaming a 40-year-old overweight woman who was married with children. And she was the manager at the local Domino's. I watched a girl I knew get fricked by a couple different guys in the hot tub right in the middle of the backyard. Watched a guy I knew take a shot of piss thinking it was tequila. Saw my friend get kicked out a party, so he backed his huge lifted truck into their front yard and did a brake stand in their lawn until he was stuck. Then threw it in 4x4 and drove off. This was in the early 2000s. Buddy had a F250 with a 10-inch lift on 38-inch tires. The holes he left were freaking huge. Watched a wasted moron, a personal adversary of mine, in fact, try to violate the host's housecut and get his peen shredded. He was then thrown out by several of us and had to wait for the ambulance in the yard. Charges were pressed against him. He actually ended up trying to counter-sue and have the cat put down. The judge pretty much laughed him out of court. A wasted guy in a full gorilla costume sitting on a couch outside sees a wasted guy in a full banana costume riding by on rollerblades. They both immediately stop and turn towards each other, and without a single word spoken, charge full speed at each other and begin wrestling. About a minute later, both get up, wind it, and the banana guy rolls off into the sunset, never to be seen again. Hey, I finally have a good answer for one of these. I saw a stripper beat up a 12-year-old. I was in high school and not a super social person. This was one of my first parties. It was college level and crazy. House out in the country. There was a bonfire. It was cool. But my town is sort of known for being trashy, as will be realized further in my story. There was a middle-aged stripper there who halfway through the party got wasted and belligerent and started going around picking fights with random men. Meanwhile, there was also a very young looking girl in a disturbingly provocative outfit going around being really loud and annoying. Basically just a bratty little crap. Turns out some dude brought their little sister and she's actually a 12-year-old girl who likes being slutty. She's known for getting white trash low-life dudes to frig her. She shows up to parties like this sometimes. A poor, misguided, infamous little white trash crap. And I'm saying this little girl was wearing skimpy clothes. Her face was caked in makeup, and her hair was up in pigtails. And she's going around wasted asking random people for cigarettes and irritating everyone. And trust me, she looked her age, which made it all the weirder. Well, at some point in the party the stripper and the poor little misguided girl collided. And why they act now they did not mix. Next thing me and my friends know there's a huge circle of people around the two and this stripper is on top of this child just freaking going to town beating the ever-loving crap out of her. The 12Y/O is scratching and clawing at her face. They were rolling around in the dirt. Freaking going off. Cops showed up. The stripper got arrested. And I don't know what became of the 12Y/O. I'm hoping foster care and extensive therapy. Don't go to redneck parties in Texas. Some jackass did 14 jello shots in the span of an hour thinking they weren't all that strong. Then that jackass decided to puke in the kitchen sink and all over the front porch. The vomit was this nasty, congealed mix of alcohol, jello, and drink. Then that jackass left the party and walked home with only one shoe, no phone, and missing his driver's license. That jackass was me. Not a party, but a college story. My buddy was in his dorm hallways with another friend painting something for a freshman class they were in. This guy walks up to them clearly blacked out of his mind and asks if they were freshmen. They obviously say yes, since they were in a freshman dorm. The other guy just says welcome to college, picks up their can of paint and starts drinking it. walks away without saying anything, and they never saw him again. When I was 14, my cousin 19 took me to a college party. I was chillin' in one of the front of the house rooms when this girl runs in completely naked and starts twerking on the wall. Few seconds later her boyfriend runs and picks her up and carries her to his car. The whole team she's yelling about how happy she was to get some peen tonight. I wasn't ready. Holy crap. Alright. So a little backstory. A friend of ours, when he was 17, was abandoned by his parents. He came home one day, found the house empty. Note from his parents saying they wanted to live their own lives. We will call him M, so our other friend, B, lets M move in with him, and B's parents give M the spare room. B took M to go register for his senior year, but because M was only 17, he couldn't. So B was able to legally adopt M, because B was 18, and then enroll M into school. So now B is M's legal guardian / parent. Fast forward 2 years. B and M are in college together, and I'm at B's day party at their house. B is getting frisky with this girl on the couch. Clothes start coming off. Another girl joins, and the M walks over and joins. B and M are now in a foursome with 2 girls. M says high five dad, and B responds good job son. Funniest freaking moment of my life. Girl wanted to make a revenge vid to send to her parents. So she sat in the middle of the room on all fours and let any guy frick her while she filmed it. Sorority girls are crazy. This one redhead girl would always take too many shots and wind up stripping down naked and fricking somebody on their car outside. Every time. The host set up a video trivia game with a trunk full of prizes. The prizes were old smelly crap from his basement that belonged in the garbage. A guy fisting a girl in the kitchen while surrounded by other party goers, one of whom was playing acoustic guitar. Later the girl was having a meltdown because she thought the other party goers thought she was a slut. Ahem. It wasn't a sex party. So, yeah. Half the party goers gathered on the roof, ceremonially destroying a 4 feet tall statue / chandelier thing. They threw it off the roof, and then everyone in the backyard either took a piece to commemorate the event or further destroyed the pieces of the statue. At another party some guy set off a firework in an empty drink bottle and held it while it went off. Blood and glass everywhere. From what I heard, the guy was found an hour later passed out in the front yard clutching his hand. Huge Halloween party in a nice part of town. It's midnight, and a werewolf with a top hat, the host, stands on a table in the middle of the lawn and shouts, "Who the frick took a crap in my sister's room?" So everyone laughs. But Mr. Werewolf is having none of it. Don't laugh. Pendages. It's not funny. Who took a crap in my sister's room? Motherfrikers? Mr. Werewolf then proceeded to kick out everyone he didn't personally know. My friend the Stormtrooper was kicked out. Wonder Woman started fighting with the White Queen. I saw El Santo sneak out with 2 full cartons of drink. And the werewolf's sister, the Mad Hatter, is crying in a corner. I took advantage of the situation and took a look inside the Mad Hatter's room. It was completely covered in crap. The walls, the carpet, the bed. It was all smeared with light brown crap. It smelled awful. A polar bear walks into the room and stands next to me, looks around, and says, "What a crappy party." I've been to exactly one event that most would describe a party in the sense of what one expects of a high school or college party. It was my best friend's New Year's Eve party, and shortly before midnight he accidentally broke his TV. By the time I left around 6 the following morning, it had already been replaced. Probably not what you're thinking of, but I think it's pretty ridiculous that someone has the resources to replace a TV in the early hours of the morning on New Year's Day without leaving the party. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.